Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to show you the easiest way to win fights on online ranked and my new favourite submission. And the gameplay is going to be from Division 17 up until Division 20 as I was going through the rankings. And in particular this season I've struggled with coming up against opponents that keep rage quitting, so it's really delayed my progress in getting to Division 20 and it's extremely frustrating. But nevertheless, in the gameplays you're about to see, I'll be showcasing my new favourite submission, and I'll be talking over how I think it's the easiest way to win fights. So this video should be live after my Hamzat videos come out. If you haven't watched that already, please don't forget to go watch it after. It's going to be a great video, a lot of gameplay, and one thing that you'll see is that the wrestle heavy playstyle is by far the best playstyle in the game, and I used to think it's the best in terms of winning fights, as in success rate. So you get your opponent to the ground and then you just stay on top of them, ground and pound, and you don't even necessarily need to look for a finish, is what I used to think before. However, what I've come to realize is that you can easily win fights just through submissions, and this is where I found the submission that you're going to be seeing throughout the video, which is the armbar from either crucifix or side saddle. Now, my thought process behind this is my old favourite submission was the Kimura from side control. And if any of you have watched my content, you'll know that side control is by far, in my opinion, the most dominant position on the ground, through several reasons. Obviously, you can throw the elbows, you can throw the knees, and it's quite easy to deny transitions, therefore build up GA, and you can attack submissions easier. And the Kimura therefore transitions into an armbar, and the success rate I have on that is probably up there with the best, apart from now the armbar from side saddle or from crucifix. And just to talk over a couple of things here, as you can see that I'm controlling Joanna on the ground here using Valentina. I just want to quickly mention that the Kimura is still very effective. I'd still say it's easily one of the best submissions in the game. Obviously the rear naked choke's up there as well, but I myself as a player find it a lot easier to do joint submissions than the choking submissions. I feel like the mini game you play for the joint submissions is a lot easier. I find it's just overall the success rate's a lot higher, and I introduced this armbar into my game and I found that a lot of my opponents really struggle to defend it. I think out of all the submissions I've ever attempted, it's definitely got the best success rate, other than the Kimura, which I've used obviously a lot more. I've used it throughout every season of the game really, and the armbar from side saddle and crucifix is something that I've just picked up on now. I'd like to throw a quick mention as well that the knee bar from half guard is also a very strong submission, but I feel like this armbar isn't utilised as much as it should be, and it's by far the easiest way that I've won fights is that you just grapple your opponent, get them into crucifix or side saddle, and then that's it, you do the submission. And these fights are all pretty much in a row. Obviously they'll be staggered throughout, so you'll see that one game, let's say I'm in Division 17, the next I'm in Division 20, then I'm back to 18, then 19. It's just the order's been mixed up as I'm filming and editing everything now, but these were all in a row. I think I went on about 15 fight title defense, so that's what, 18 win streak, and a lot of them were rage quits. I also built up a very big win streak using Hamzat Chimaev. But yeah, this submission, I'm telling you, it really is something special, and you'll see that I'm going to be fighting a lot of high level fighters, a lot of good fighters, and they just crumble. It's not like they're bad at the game or they're using fighters that are lower rated, and I'm using Valentina and Rose and just steamrolling them because they're not using fighters that are good. My opponents are also using very, very good fighters, and obviously the matchup here is very favourable, Valentina versus Joanna, because I'm just going to look to take her to the ground, and obviously if I fail to do that, Valentina's stand-up is also just brutal. But you can see I had success on the ground in round 1, and right now I'm just being patient. I'm not forcing a takedown. And one thing that I've learned throughout the process of becoming better as a player overall, and now adapting to this new style of, you know, just take your opponent down and look for a submission, is that you've just got to be patient, because if you constantly throw in these takedown attempts, you'll start to realize that your opponent's picking up on how you're doing it, and it's just going to be predictable. You know, they're going to be constantly looking to deny. And in the next fight also, you'll see how I deal with adversity and then really mix up how and when I go for the takedown attempts. As you can see, hurt Joanna there. Go for the takedown. It's a great denier from my opponent. And yeah, just it's by far the best play style is wrestling, taking your opponent to the ground, now looking for these submissions. I would really recommend the armbar that I'm going to showcase in the gameplay. If not, the Kimura is definitely up there, and the rear naked choke. I don't really like to use it just because of how strong it is. I'd say joint submissions are definitely easier overall than choke ones, and if it's something that you're new to the game, you're just looking to get started, you want to learn how to submit people, joint submissions I think are the way forwards. And then once you get used to the joint submissions, move over to the choke submissions, and then obviously overall you'll just become a better player. But one thing I noticed is that the Kimura was definitely my favourite submission from side control, and I started to notice that a lot of players had picked up on it and they'd start denying the transition, whereas because the armbar is up when you go to get the armbar from side saddle or crucifix, it's less likely that your opponent is going to deny. Out of all the opponents I've played across this 18 fight win streak, not one of them managed to deny it. I think I also did go for an Americana from crucifix a couple times before starting to use this armbar, and they did get denied. So these high level players, they're denying the more obvious submission attempts. So the Kimura from side control and the Americana from crucifix, whereas the armbar I feel like it's a bit of a hidden gem. Not too many people use it, and as you can see I dropped my opponent there as well. And by me saying this is the play style to win, is wrestle, get them to the ground and submit people, doesn't mean that of course you're only going to wrestle. As you can see in the gameplays here, and you'll see in the next gameplays, I do strike. It's just when I go to the ground, you'll see that it's just lethal. That once I get my opponent onto the ground, I don't give them any chance. And once I've locked in that submission, the success rate is so high. I think out of all the fights that I'm showing in the gameplay today, I don't know if anyone gets out of an attempt and I have to go for a second one. I think predominantly no one gets out. I think maybe one or two people might have got out once and then I re-go for it, and then we end up getting the finish. But yeah, right now we're putting on a very dominant performance. If we want to talk about the gameplay, my opponents had success here and there. As you can see, my feet were planted and my opponent was moving forward, so I landed the combinations first. Big wobble there. You can see that Joanna really doesn't have her feet under her right now. We've done great damage to the body and especially to the head. I remember in round 1 I caught Joanna with a beautiful head kick, and the bodywork's really paying dividends. I mean, look at that, that is just beautiful. Now my opponent's here, looks to get up. I knew she was going to do that because she'd done it the time before. Now we're on top of Joanna in side control, and again, as I was saying, this is the most dangerous position. I'm sort of waiting here just to see if my opponent's stamina is going to go off, and then off that you can see I instantly go to crucifix. So I was waiting, I was gathering all the thoughts. I was saying, okay, now she's got no stamina, I'm going to get into crucifix, she's not going to expect it. Now that I'm in crucifix, I'm waiting very patiently to see what she's going to do, and patience is very key when you're adapting to this playstyle. I'm still a very leg kick heavy player when it comes to being on the feet, because like I've spoken about in thousands and thousands of games before, is that it is the best thing to do on the feet. You get easy knockdowns, and then you can win a decision really easily. And here you see that I actually go for a choke submission, and my opponent's doing a good job here of working a way out. And this was just a spur of the moment thing. I saw that it was available. I looked at the time on the clock. I knew that if she gets out of it, I'm going to have time to go for another submission attempt. So we get the deny here, throw a couple elbows, get back into the crucifix, and I'm looking at the time here, and you can see I'm rotating between the submissions. I'm seeing which one I should pick, and I knew if I get the deny and go for the armbar, I'll have around a minute to work with. And depending on how good you are at submissions, it can take between anywhere from 45 seconds to 60 seconds. As a baseline, I wouldn't go for one unless you have, I'd say, the bare minimum 55 seconds, because it's subjective. A lot of different variables go into it. How good your opponent is at getting out of submissions, how good their fighter is at getting out of submissions, how good your fighter is at that particular submission. But I'd say 55 seconds is a good ballpark figure of when and when not to go for that submission. But as you can see, got the submission, tapped out my opponent, who again was a very good opponent. And coming into this gameplay here, we're using Namajunas Thug Rose, and we're coming up against, I believe this is the 5-star, like the legendary Joanna, who of course is very good, beautiful leg kicks, great knees, great elbows. The Muay Thai is just extremely good, good front kicks, good teep kicks, great boxing, very hard to keep on the ground, and this here is going to be a very intriguing matchup. And just, you know, using Rose, I've definitely got the advantage on the ground. When it comes to the boxing, I'm not too sure about the power, but I feel like in terms of combinations of just boxing, Rose has got the advantage. But when you're mixing in kicks, then, you know, there's not much you can do against Joanna. She's just so good. And my opponent here is very technical. As you can see, I'm shooting for a takedown already, and I miss. It's important to note this is a 5-round fight. And yeah, I was nowhere near, so my opponent evaded easily. And you'll see that my opponent has great success in this round and the rounds to come, just mixing up the combinations. And here I'm really trying to read my opponent. Like I always say, it's a 5-round fight. I need to, in the first round, I sort of take it off, trying to pick up on little habits and see what my opponent's really trying to do. Do they put their head to one side? Do they throw this combination? When do they throw leg kicks? How do they enter the pocket? What range do they want to keep the fight at? Right now I'm trying to download all this information whilst my opponent is, you know, mixing up combinations, using the jab well, throwing that leg kick very well. And the most important thing here is I know that it's going to be a very leg kick heavy you know, tactic from my opponent, and I really need to start either landing my own leg kicks or starting to check my opponent's. But every time I'm throwing, he's checking mine, which is only doing more and more damage to me. And as you can see, he checked it again and then hit me straight back with another one. So this is a very skilled opponent here. You can tell that my opponent knows exactly what they're doing. I unload there, hits me with the spinning back fist and the uppercut. And one thing I liked about my opponent was the predictability wasn't there. He was catching me with straight combinations, throwing leg kicks at a good angle, even though it was obscure, but that's exactly what you got to do. I tried to clinch and turn him, but it didn't work, and we land a beautiful roundhouse to the body. And I knew from here is that I've got to stop going for these random takedown attempts. I've really got to set them up well, and not only that, I've got to be very selective with when I use them, because my stamina is already very low for round 1 of a 5-round fight. I know my opponent's output's definitely been a lot higher than mine, but he's also had a higher success rate when it comes to strikes landed. So in terms of stamina, I'm not sure if his is going to be lower right now. I'm assuming it would be, but just to be on the safer side, I know that I've got to limit my output, but at the same time I can't be a punching bag. So as you can see, this round's gone past. It's definitely my opponent's round, and as you can see, there's the stats there. My opponent was just throwing so many strikes, and in my head here is that, okay, if I take this fight to the 3rd and to the 4th and to the 5th, you know, hit those championship rounds, as long as I don't take too much damage, I can really press when my opponent's tired, because this fighting style is very effective, I feel, across 3 rounds. And then if you cannot get your opponent out of there in 3 rounds, it's going to be very detrimental to yourself, because you're no longer going to have the stamina. So as you can see, go for a takedown here, and I tried to turn it and he denied it. So it just goes to show you that my opponent is very good, knows exactly what he's doing. Normally when I get people to the fence there and go for the suplex takedown, as you've seen the Hamzat video prior to this, I have a very high success rate, but my opponent denied that with relative ease. So yeah, it was at this point there when he denied that I thought, okay, this is going to be a very good player. I need to see out these next 2 rounds. And in rounds 4 and 5, when my opponent's tired, because obviously throwing such high strike rate, that is when I'm going to really shoot for these takedowns and hope to get a submission victory. But right now, as you can see, I'm not shying away from the boxing exchanges. I'm really looking to clip him on the way in, but at the moment I felt like there was a slight power difference, and I don't know if that's just because psychologically my opponent was landing more, so it felt like he was doing more damage and hurting me more. But it just felt like whenever I was throwing a punch, and you know, one thing that was really throwing me off is the knees. So every time I went to uppercut, my opponent would throw a knee, and with Joanna, just the knees are so strong. And right now I'm throwing the lead leg kick a bit more. As you can see, I'm checking the leg kick here, and I'm starting to get more reactions out of my opponent, which is something that was very good. And bang, we check another leg kick. And this is when right now he's really pressuring me, and like I've said before, I know that this fight, it cannot go the distance the way my opponent is fighting. My opponent's either going to finish me and get me out of there, or my opponent himself is going to get finished, because when you throw this much volume, it's just insane. It's like a Colby Covington fight. And obviously when you are using the lighter weight classes, you know, you've got that leeway of throwing more strikes because you use up less stamina. But this was just next level how many strikes my opponent was throwing. You can see he's clipping me now. My head health slowly going down. Body wise, I'm doing okay. My leg health isn't in the greatest position. As you can see, I land the knee there, but he lands the roundhouse to the body. And there's just, you know, under 45 seconds to go right now. My opponent's starting to mix it up and try to go for these head kicks, which is something that I need to take a note of. And this round again, I'd say, has been a pretty dominant round for my opponent. Although it's definitely been closer than the first. He got that takedown deny, which I think was big in terms of morale for my opponent. And obviously, not great for me. Hits me with that beautiful switch kick there, and then goes up high. Goes up high twice. I don't know how that didn't knock me down. He went to do it again, and the stamina flashed. So that was like 3 head kicks in a row. I don't know how the second one didn't, you know, put me down. But fortunately, yeah, my opponent didn't get me out of there with that one. So coming into round 3, my stamina's actually recovered fairly well. Like, I think my stamina's in a great position there. Hits me with that beautiful overhand right, and then catches me with the uppercut. So that's a knockdown for my opponent. And now I really need to clear the cobwebs. Need to be careful. And again, my opponent's making all the right decisions when I'm moving my head, going straight to that leg, because I can't block my legs if I'm moving my head. And unless I get a knockdown here, it's definitely my opponent's round in the scorecard. So right now I'm just thinking, okay, do some damage myself. Don't suffer another knockdown, because I don't want my head health to get too low. And be very careful with my legs, and really try throwing a leg kick here or there just to hurt my opponent's leg, because I have been checking the leg kicks, so I know that my opponent's legs also aren't in the greatest position. Definitely in a better position than mine, but nevertheless we can definitely utilise those leg kicks. And I know that as long as I get out of this round, just because of how aggressive my opponent's being and the strike outputs he's using, I know that I can definitely try and incorporate my ground game in round 4. And this is something that I was saying earlier on in the video about being patient, is that I know my opponent is very good at denying takedowns. And as you can see, he's constantly in my face, and if I shoot for a takedown and get hit with a knee or an uppercut or a front kick, it's going to be very detrimental. So I'm just being patient. I know the opportunity will arise. I've still got another 2 minutes and like 30 seconds to work with in this round, and not only that, I've got all the rounds, I've got 2 more rounds after that to work in a takedown. I only need 1, because like I'm saying, the success rate for this submission is so high. So I know that I just need to get my opponent down once, and then I just need to go for the submission once. If he's tired, then that's it. The fight's done. It will be locked in, and it will be a good victory. So we stunned my opponent. I know the head health my opponent's hurting now. As you can see, through a lead leg kick and got hit with a good crisp 1-2 combination, which fortunately didn't drop me. That would have been my own mistake, throwing that leg kick there in that boxing range. It just leaves you prone to get hurt. But right now I can feel that my punches are doing damage as he rocks me there. But I can feel like my punches are doing well in terms of damage. And I knew he was going to go for a flying knee, which is why I tried to rotate away. But it done that weird thing where it like auto locks onto you and doesn't let you properly escape it. As you can see, there's been a very high paced fight, and when he threw that front kick and I dodged it, I thought, yep, you're going to sleep. I was just out of range with that hook. That hook could have either knocked out my opponent or definitely got a knockdown, because that was timed so well, but unfortunately the range was just slightly off. But yeah, very high paced fight, and then we get my opponent's leg there. And it's very important, like I said, that when you're facing a leg kicker, to give him a different look, to go back for those legs and hurt their legs as much as they're hurting yours. And he hit me with that flying knee again, switch kick there, switch kick again. And that was a common theme, that when my opponent hurt me, he would then throw like the same kick like 3 times in a row. And coming into round 4, I know my stamina is definitely at a higher level. I know that if I get this takedown, I can probably finish the fight as long as I get a hold of that submission, or even through ground and pound. But my block's low, my head health's low. I know my opponent's leg's hurting, which is why you see me use that lead inside leg kick just to try and get a little stun off, or just to throw my opponent off, but my head health is really in a bad position. Like, it's flashing every time my opponent touches me, and my block isn't holding up very well. I'm just waiting to get this takedown here. Because I haven't gone for takedowns as much, I managed to get the trip here, and I see that my opponent's stamina is low. And the crucial thing here is that I haven't been going for takedowns. It's really been both of us standing up for a long period of time. Yes, I've gone for like a couple here and there. My opponent's denied it. So in my opponent's head is that, oh, he's not going to go for a takedown. He's just going to stand up. And then when we caught that roundhouse to the body, we took my opponent down with the trip. And here I think I go for the armbar from side saddle, and Rhodes obviously got a great ground game, definitely better than Joanna. And I knew that when I locked this in that the fight was done. And again, this is against a high level opponent, as you can see throughout the fight. It was very, very good, very action packed, back and forth fight. And the fights after this will be definitely a lot shorter than the first two that have played out. I'll probably try to timestamp the video if I remember, so you can skip over the fights if you just want to see the submission finishes. But yeah, we get the victory there. My opponent gave up. And we're in the Bantamweight division, the women's Bantamweight division. I'm coming up against Ronda Rousey, and this was going to be a real test, because obviously Ronda's very good on the ground, and Ronda herself has very, very good armbar. So I was actually going to try to get a gameplay with Ronda doing the submission. It's maybe something I'll look to do after, but Valentina Shevchenko, I'm not really worried about the fight going to the ground. My opponent gets me down early, which is to be expected using Ronda Rousey. Although she has a lot of power, doesn't really have the best combinations when it comes to setting up strikes. Definitely doesn't have a good kicking game. In terms of punches, like I said, got a lot of power, but obviously going to flourish when it comes to the ground game here. And right now I'm fairly content. Obviously there's 5 rounds to work with, and I also know that as long as I get Ronda into my full guards, there's a good chance of me using the half guard sweep and then getting on top, getting to side control and controlling her. And one thing to note is obviously you need to know your fighters. Ronda, if I get her into side control, will have the sweep to get straight into full guard, so I need to be proactive and look to deny that. We take Ronda's back here, we get to deny, and I'm sure at this point my opponent was expecting me to go for the rear naked choke. And again, you can go from the armbar from that position there. I think the armbar overall is a very safe bet, but out of the two there, the rear naked choke would definitely be the stronger one. And then Ronda makes the mistake there. My opponent's punching with the left arm, which is the one that should have been grabbing Valentina's neck. We get the transition deny there for a couple elbows. I then knew she'd go half guard rather than going to sprawl. And this is something that you pick up. A lot of players have the same tendencies, especially in the higher divisions. And then once you learn those tendencies, it becomes very, very easy and predictable. And you just sort of figure out quite quickly that, okay, this person's going to do this person's going to do that. And then you just start winning fights extremely quickly. But racking up the control time here, doing some good damage to the head. And just look how patient I'm being. A lot of people right now will be spamming elbows and then get, flipped off of this position. But being patient, I'm waiting. As you can see, deny, a couple elbows, and it's back to being patient. Deny again, and then there's where we go for the armbar. And obviously Ronda Rousey's going to have good submission defense. So just submitting someone like Ronda is a very big thing. And this submission is so brutal. I'm just breaking arms left, right, and center, and going for an absolute tear. And I can't wait to see if after this video, depending of course how many people see it, if some of the higher level players start to incorporate this submission into the game, because I don't see too many people go for it too often. I see a lot of rear naked chokes when it comes to people in the higher divisions, like the top 100 guys. As soon as they take your back, it's game. They're going to go for that rear naked choke. But I'd like to see if people start implementing this more. I still think the Kimura from side control isn't implemented enough. But people are starting to use it more often. I've had a lot more attempts of it on me, and I'm starting to see a lot more people deny it. So obviously it's something that's going around the community, and people have realised it's a strong submission. And in this gameplay here, we're coming up against a Chris Cyborg, who was in Division 14, I believe. Cyborg's obviously got a good ground game, but predominantly her expertise is going to be on the feet just because of how much power she has. However, her ground game does need to be respected. Got good submissions. I think she is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so that's something I'm wary of, but get to side control fairly easily. And again, once I get into this position, you know what the drill is going to be. I'm going to look to deny, and as you can see, it goes to half guard, then we get straight into crucifix. And yeah, this submission is super strong. You can tell from the gameplay here, it's not just one, or I don't know how many gameplays there are going to be. I think there's going to be maybe six gameplays. So it's not just one or two games where I'm beating someone that's in a low division and claiming that this is to some really good submission. It's a really good strategy. I'm beating a lot of different fighters in various divisions and all fairly high skilled. So it just goes to show you that I'm not exaggerating when I say the success rate on this submission is unreal, and you'll get used to just taking arms and snapping them. So we lock in the submission, and yeah, we're gonna get the submission finished. But like I was saying, a lot of people don't really know how to deny this submission because a lot of people don't go for it. It's the same as the knee bar I use from half guard. A lot of people don't know about it, so a lot of people don't go for it. I know about the arm bar when you knock someone down and then you go for it. I think a lot of people do know about that. But in terms of, doing it from this position, not too many people know about it. And we're going to be using Rose in this gameplay. Division 17 coming up against the Division 18 Joanna. And yeah, whenever I pick Rose, a lot of people go Joanna. I was hoping to get gameplay against Wei Li, who is normally my go-to fighter when it comes to reliever. Wei Li is normally the fighter I use, but obviously with Rose, she's got the submissions. Tried to take my opponent's back there, for some reason didn't go for the takedown, so take my opponent down straight into side control and get the deny here. And my methodology behind denying always sprawl is that if they go to the sprawl, it's the least advantageous position for me, and it's more beneficial for my opponent because they could just sit and sprawl denies, and then eventually you'll stand back up to your feet. If my opponent then gets me to half guards, I can just work my way back, so it's not really a problem, which is why I always look to pre-deny the sprawl. But because, I can always work my way back from half guard, and here you need to know where you're at. I'm against the fence. My opponent can probably push off the fence and then reverse the position, so I was looking to pre-deny that. But my opponent made the right decision, got into half guard. Denies 2 strikes there. I was hoping that at least one of them would have landed, and then my opponent would have started panicking, and then I could posture up and get straight into side control. But my opponent here does a great job of getting me into full guard, but just because of the stamina difference, I can posture up and then get straight back into half guard, which is, it's demotivating when you do all that work to get someone back into your full guard. You think, alright, cool, I'm going to be able to stand up or reverse the position, and then they quite comfortably pass guard, and then I'm ended up straight back in side control in a matter of 10-15 seconds. Here we get into side saddle, and I'm just waiting. I know that I've just got to make the deny. Whenever in this position, they're always going to look to go backside, so pre-deny that, go for the arm bar, and it's just going to be another arm break here. And yeah, it just shows that I'm not exaggerating. This submission really is as good as I'm saying it is. Right now, before recording this video, I went to play a couple more games, and yeah, I've just constantly taking arms. And this is the lowest division fighter I do play against. I think it was Division 12, this Holly Holm fighter. And yeah, I saw the division and I was like, okay, probably going to be quite easy to get my opponent to the ground and just get a finish, which isn't really a fair assessment because I know there's a lot of high level fighters that are in the lower divisions. We take Holly Holm down, and I think we get this one out of the way pretty quickly, to be honest with you. Caught me by surprise there, which, to be fair, well done to my opponent. I really didn't expect my opponent to try to reverse it. We get the deny, sweep back into full guard, and that sweep is so good because I never even knew that sweep was a thing until I used Valentina. And as you can see, my opponent's stamina's already gone. I could have just gone for the submission there and then from this position, to be honest with you, but I wanted to brutalise my opponent with some elbows first because, it's just the way Valentina is. She loves using the elbows from this position. Locking the armbar here, and yeah, I knew that the fight was done. Whenever I get this, I'm more confident with this submission than I have ever been with any submission across any UFC game. I've never thought anything would replace the Kimura, just because that Kimura transition to the armbar I thought was super effective, especially when you pair it with the side control, elbows and knees. But this submission has really taken over that spot with relative ease, to be honest with you. And I'm just really hoping that everyone that's watching this video can really take something from it and start incorporating the submission into their own gameplays, and just let me know if you have any success with it. Let me know in the comments. Doesn't need to be on this video, could be in a future video. Just let me know, like, oh look, I tried your armbar and yeah, it's really effective, or tell me if it's not effective, and catch this Created Fighters kick, which I've been running into more and more calves as of recently, and I've been snapping legs coming up against them, as I showcased in my TJ Dillashaw sort of fighter showcase, in which I broke Created Fighters leg with leg kicks. But I knew once I got the fight to the ground, I'm just so confident from this position that I'll get a finish. But quickly to stray away from the gameplay, I just want to say a huge thank you to all the support. At the time of recording this, I think I am on 155 subscribers, which is, again, just super thankful. I've grown our own little community. I'm seeing the same people in the comment section, liking the videos, and whenever I do stream, which I haven't as much lately just because I've been busy, but when I do stream, it's nice that I'm getting familiar faces in the chat. But yeah, I just want to say a huge shout out to you guys. Again, if you have any comment suggestions, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. I will get around to recording those videos. Like I said, I have a set schedule, so it would have to be filtered in, probably take a week or two, but that video will definitely come out. In terms of content that you haven't seen before, if any of you would be interested in maybe uploading your fights to YouTube and have me react to them and maybe give tips on how you should do this and why you should do that, I'd be more than happy to do that. But yeah, overall I just want to say a huge thank you, because it does mean a lot, and I'm happy that my videos are helping you. So getting back into the fight, you can see that I'm in my opponent's full guard posture up here. I was waiting for my opponent to sort of do that little wiggle, move around and then advance, but my opponent done a good job. I'm doing better and better at denying transitions and then just getting into the positions I want. As you see, my opponent was going to try to get into full guard or take my back. We're into side control, and you know what's going to happen next. And because I think my opponent quit straight away, I'm going to go ahead and do my outro now, otherwise I won't really have time. So yeah, just big thank you to everyone who's been watching the videos. If you did enjoy this video today, a sort of longer style video, let me know in the comments below. If you're new around here, subscribe for more UFC content. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.